get you. You have to do them. And one thing fell into place after the other. I came back. I was like, I have no money left after this trip. I've got to study this, but I just don't know how I'm going to do it. So I wrote to Andrea Lopez, who was the pioneer of this work in Australia, and she is amazing. And I said, can I come and study with you? And she said, no, that, there's a process. And I said, well, when, how? And then 2 weeks later, the first self-care course got off the ground in Australia, and I was there. No money, sleeping on floors, but we did it.
But you made it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the self-care, because this also interests me. This isn't just a technique that someone does to you. This is a technique that you can actually learn to do on yourself, right? Absolutely.
And just to bring it back to your first question about what are the techniques, the massage is the core, but it's not everything. There are other techniques. The use of castor oil packs is a big part of it to break down, stagnation and move the flow of the body. Vaginal steaming is another big thing. And this is a very traditional technique in many parts of the world. In some parts of the world, they use hot coals or hot stones to introduce warmth and heat into the vagina to help the uterus lift. So that's
like big squatting over the hot coals?
Yes. Yes, they do. They do squat with hot coals, but the Maya use steam, hot water. So I actually have a vaginal steaming stool here. I can get it if you want to see it.
Oh, go on, show us.
Okay.
Okay. No one's ever seen
I'll go grab it.
So welcome. My name's Carolia, and I'm with the Yoga Lunchbox. And today I've got a really interesting person to speak to. So sitting with me here is Summer. I had to practice her name a few times to get the pronunciation right, but I got it right.
Yeah, you got it great.
Cool, awesome. Now you are, amongst other things, a Sechimananda yoga teacher. But the reason that we're talking is you do this amazing technique I've never heard of, and it's called Vigo Techniques of Maya Abdominal Therapy. So what is this?
Well, the Arvigo techniques of Maya Abdominal Therapy were developed by Dr. Rosita Arvigo, coming through her work with a traditional Belizean shaman, Donalihio Panti. He was the last in line in the tradition that he came from, and at the time that Dr. Rosita, I'll just tell you a little bit about her very briefly before I explain the work. She left the United States during the Vietnam War because they just wanted to get away from that whole scene and wanted to practice natural medicine. She spent some time in Mexico studying with traditional midwives, and she was a napropath, not a naturopath. And a napropath works with joints and tendons and connections between the various parts of the body, so she knew a lot about anatomy, and she was a herbalist too. She settled in Belize at one point, and one day they were struggling because it was moldy, it was hard, the herbs were not working, everything was just tough, One day this man in his 90s walked into her clinic and he said, what do you do? And she started explaining to him, and she said, what's your name? And he said, Donalihio Panti, and she said she almost fell off her chair because she'd been looking for him. And he was in his 90s by then. Yeah, it was amazing. And so the Arvigo techniques as they stand today are a compilation and a condensing of everything she learned with him and from other traditional healers. So the keystone of the work is the abdominal therapy, which is the massage. We work as Arvigo therapists from the sternum to the pubic bone. So we're working all the digestive organs and the reproductive organs. And that is kind of the most important, most special part of this work. Because what I've seen with women, and I've only been practicing for a few years, there are teachers who've been doing this longer, so I'm very humble in that, this is still coming into my life, but pain that's been there for 30 years, gone. Amenorrhea, gone. Things that you just can't imagine. The body heals itself through the hands working the organs and returning flow back to the body. It's just so beautiful.
So one of the things that this technique does was you try an alignment, so you're realigning the uterus as such. Now,
absolutely.
I had no idea that a uterus could even get out of alignment.
Yeah, see, this is when I found this work, that was one of the things that it just spoke to me so quickly, wow, if women knew this about themselves, it's like an area that's so glossed over. And a lot of massage therapists, they won't even go near the lower belly. It's just because of, fears of maybe sexual harassment or whatever. But also, it's such an area that holds so much emotion. And yes, the uterus definitely can get out of alignment. It's held up by several tendons. And when we move as women, the uterus actually moves with us. And that's what she's designed to do in order to, support childbirth and allow us to be flexible and expand and contract. And a lot of modern exercise, the way we know it today, was designed by men for men as such. And high impact stuff, lots of jarring can really cause the uterus to drop because her job is to be flexible. And those tendons start stretching. And then adhesions can form. So the actual organ can attach herself to, say, the wall of other tissues. And that's when you get a lot of period pain, you get endometriosis, anything, all disease in that part of the body is a lack of flow.
Right.
When you're really centered and lifted, then everything, the blood can get in, the chi can get back in, which is the prana, of course, and, the nerve supply can get back in, and the body really quickly regenerates itself. And Don Alighiero used to say, Rosita says this all the time, it's such a beautiful quote, he used to say, a woman's life is at her center. And it's quite amazing, actually.
So you call this yoga for your organs when you're talking about it? And
yeah, I do. I love saying that.
So why? Why do you call it yoga for your organs?
When yoga came into my life about 10 years ago, I'd had a car accident. And I was very limited in what I could do, mobility-wise. And yoga really just changed the whole thing for me. And one of the things I experienced was, because I was with an younger teacher, and it was all about holding the pose in alignment, going really deep into the muscles, was just things opening, I'm sure you know what I mean, right? Like everything opening on every level. When I started massaging my belly, it was like, this is happening on the inside. Like, this is happening, like, in the stomach and in the liver and in the uterus, and it was like a whole other level of going deeper and deeper and deeper. And, the whole idea of yoga being union, it was coming closer to those organs and feeling them as each as individuals and as their place in, like, the little dance that they do together. So, yeah, I don't know how to explain it any better. It just feels that way.
So when you're using this technique on a client, when you're massaging the abdominal area with your hands, can you actually feel where each organ is sitting, what's going on with it? Can you feel to what degree of sensitivity do you have?
Well, it really depends on the person. With the uterus, for example, a healthy uterus is not palpable. A uterus that's centered should not be felt. But I have felt people who don't have centered uteruses, like it's like almost like a pea inside a pod, and you can squeeze it along. It can be palpable. You can definitely feel the stomach if it's full, or if it's a little bit imbalanced and swollen. You can definitely feel areas, and the descending colon is almost always palpable as a nice spongy rubbery thing. You can feel these different places in the body, and their energy is also very palpable. It's very intimate work because you're working the person's, flank in a really deep, deep way. But the person is covered up fully. You're working small areas at a time. So, but still, it's amazing how quickly people relax though. When they're touched in this way, like in a non-threatening, non-sexual, non-aggressive way on their body. The moment the defenses go down, this deep state of relaxation just comes in that it's quite beautiful to watch, actually.
So you're the only person in New Zealand who's certified to...
Currently, yes.
Yeah. So how did you discover it? Where did you find it?
Oh, in New York.
It was, of course, in New York, right?
It was in 2009. I was in San Francisco, and I went on a vision quest. And a mini vision quest. And I was in the redwood forest, and I said, what do you want me to do? Because I was at a crossroads, and I tripped over a root of a redwood tree, and it was a long arm with fingers on it, looked like a hand, like that. And I didn't get it right away. I was like, what? Yeah, cool, I don't get it. Then the next week, I was in New York, and my aunt, who I love very much, said, you've got to try this Mayan massage thing. And I'm like, okay. So I went, and I'm like, I really like this, but I'm not sure yet what I'm supposed to do. Then I was on a plane the next day going to Washington, D.C., and I read Rosita's book, Rainforest Remedies, back to back. I shut the book, I closed my eyes, and I heard a voice. And the voice said, you were to go to Belize and study Maya spiritual healing, which I just did in March after many years of doing massage work. And I looked up, and on the little TV screen on this inter-U.S. flight were the nurse sharks in Belize. I'd been there once before, and that was where I'd been. And that's where my son was conceived. So it was all very, it was too crazy,
This is the yoga lunchbox.
Yes. So here's my vaginal steaming stool.
Right.
Only one in the country as far as I know. And clients do use it. So with prolapses, it's a great thing.
Right.
When you have any kind of stagnation of the uterus, preconception, it's a great thing. So those are some of the techniques. There is a line of herbal remedies that are made in the rainforest. Mm-hmm. Well, they're made everywhere, but the plants come from the rainforest, and they're all salvaged botany. So they're all plants that were rescued in their traditional Maya medicine. So all that stuff is part of the techniques. And on the self-care course, you get a very thorough understanding of how to use these techniques for your own health. Everybody who comes to see me or any of the Arvigo practitioners is taught self-care massage. That's number one. Everybody needs to know how to do it for themselves. Mm-hmm. Like that's where the work happens. It's like yoga in that way.
Yeah.
Like you go to class, but you take the sadhana with you.
Yeah, and you do your practice at home.
Absolutely, for the rest of your life, for health. Yeah.
So one last thing, or a couple of other things. I had a read through your website because, of course, I wanted to know more about you. And when I got to sort of about you, you don't just teach yoga or do this particular technique, do you? You're trained in like a multitude of modalities. So can you just list for us what you do?
Yeah, what I do, I started off living in the Middle East, and at that time, it was great. I was in a great community full of alternative practitioners, so I got a taste of a lot of different things. The very first sort of spiritual path thing that I got into was Reiki, when I was 17, so it was a while ago. And it really changed my life. I mean, heightened my sensitivity, everything. So that's where it started. And that's where a lot of body work came in, because I just started working on people's bodies, and then things would happen intuitively. And then I mentored with an amazing medium. I mean, that's all you can call her. She's a spirit communicator. And she taught me some other healing techniques and helped me develop my own intuition. And she's amazing, too. I also had another amazing mentor who I love, who's a transpersonal therapist, and so she taught me a lot about counseling in that way, and vision questing and inner child work and all that. And I don't practice those things on their own, but they definitely, they inform the work, right, for sure.
So when you say transpersonal, you mean like transpersonal therapy?
And then I qualified as an NFNLP hypnotherapist as well, which I don't use on its own, but again, it does inform the work, and with Yoga Nidra as well. It's nice. It deepens the understanding of how to work with the subconscious. So it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else of note. I think those are the big ones.
I mean, that's like 6 or 7 different ways of working with I guess, well-being, would you call it?
Sure.
I mean, sometimes it feels like there's a bit of overwhelm out there. This is something I'm interested in. Like, oh my God, there's so many different techniques, and this is yet another one. As someone who has trained in so many different, would you say that, like you say, they inform what you're doing, and you just pull what's appropriate for the client according to what you know?
This is such a great question, Carolia, because in the last few years, I really felt like that was such a big time of exploration and learning, and all that stuff definitely informs, but I found that I need to focus my energy on like 2 things or 3 things, and I can't really go outside of that. So the Maya work, I feel, is the bulk of what I do, and yoga is just such a big part of my life that it comes in anyway. Like you're sitting with someone and you know that this will help them, so you talk about, you know what I mean? But I think I value all that experience. Every single one of those modalities gave me something, and for myself as well, my own healing. But I think I got to the point where I really had to condense it, because it can do so many different things. But they were great though. They all led into each other, for sure.
So you're running a course in August, right? So just tell us a little bit about this. This is a self-care course, so when people come along, what are they going to learn?
Well, the teacher, Jennifer O'Hagan, is flying in on the 1st of August. She is a senior teacher, so we're very, very lucky to have her. She's one of the ones that's been around a really long time. So what you learn, you get an in-depth understanding of the anatomy in a way like that's so 3D, so palpable, so fun, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know I had all this in there, You get a very thorough understanding of the work, the history of the work, the lineage, and, why. Like all those questions like why, and what were the Maya doing, why did they do this, and how did they practice this? And, there are kind of a spiritual overtone too, to understand the traditions and the Maya spirits, which are a very big part of the work. You learn other techniques, as I said, the benefits of vaginal steaming, how to do it for yourself, how to use the castor oil packs for yourself, what the herbal remedies are for if you choose to use them, the faja as well, which is the traditional belly band, and why that's used, how that helps the hips align postpartum, even during, post-menses and all kinds of things, if there's misalignments in the hips. So there's several things you learn. And also, it is the first step if you wish to become a practitioner.
Right.
So everybody really has to do their own, take this path, self-care.
So we've talked a lot about women's health in terms of this particular technique, but it also works for men, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's amazing for women, as we've discussed. But for men, the prostate is, as we know in modern society, such a vulnerable place for men. And there's so many issues there for men. And this work really, really can restore so much circulation and so much clearing to that space that it can rapidly improve a lot of those conditions. As the women have vaginal steams, the men have penis soaks, which are kind of cool.
So what does that do?
Well, it helps the circulation again, helps release the toxins, helps, everything's about circulation, ultimately, in flow. So it really helps, the whole thing just loosen up and release any old debris and old material. And
I'm just imagining like the rugby locker rooms, and this guy's like, yeah, man, I had a penis soak last night.
I had my penis soak yesterday. Yeah, totally. It's really good. So there's a lot of that for men, and, helping their sperm count, helping just generally urinary tract issues, kidney issues. Let's not overlook the digestive system too. I mean, we talk so much about the uterus and the reproductive system, but all our digestive organs are getting worked. And that's the same for both genders. I mean, there is so much content here, emotionally and physically, and it's just amazing what comes out.
Do some clients have emotional releases?
Oh, yeah. Not in the way you would expect, usually. Usually, it's very gentle and just kind of stuff comes up. But I've had a few. One in particular where she wept through the whole session. And I kept asking her, are you sure you want to continue? And she's like, yes. No words, no explanation, just tears, just release. You can have if someone's had trauma, it can come up. The residue of old trauma. And that's where the Maya spiritual healing really helps. Because you know that some of what's moving through isn't even physical.
Yeah.
And that does happen. Not all the time, but it does. It's a very gentle technique, so a lot of the time the healing is subtle and it works on them over time. Some people are ripe and ready for a release, and then that happens.
So one final thing I do want to touch on is Dr. Rosita. She learned this from Don Eligio.
Yeah.
But you say he came from a long line of shamans, so was he the end of a lineage? So this is something this is not what I'm getting to, is this is not something new that has been invented in the last 20 years. This is something that's been practiced for hundreds of years? Or
well, in the form it's in now, there have been slight modifications and adjustments and a modern anatomical understanding coming into it, and things she's learned from the other midwives as well that were traditional Central American midwives. But the base of the technique is what Don Eligio used to do for his clients. And when they asked him what he was doing, he just said, this helps. It's good for them. This helps. And then I go, what are you doing? He said, it helps. It's good for them, And so the implication is he learned that from someone.
Okay.
And he had, a mentor. And in the book, Sastoon, actually, which is available at Auckland City Library, so it might be available in Wellington too. It's amazing. His book is floating around. Rosita details Don Eligio's life, and it's a fascinating story. So he would have learned it from someone, and definitely they've been doing this belly lifting for hundreds of years in one form or another. Definitely, it's old stuff.
Well, I'm intrigued. I wish I was in Auckland, because if I was, I think I'd come along and experience it. So, but you never know. There's enough to know. I might be able to bring a teacher down to Wellington.
I would love to do that.
I'm sure people would be interested to experience this. So, thank you again, Summer, for talking to us.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm so honored to talk to you. You're amazing. Thank you.